Now it's the time for our next session, which is very, very interesting, talking about kids' animated videos. It's time for another interesting panel discussion on the topic, getting kids' attention in a fragmented universe.
A very good evening, all of you. How are you all doing? Hello. I want all of you to stand up once, please. Please stand up. Yes. Please stand up in honor of our beloved Ram Mohan sir and give him a huge round of applause for his 91st birthday today. As Anil already told you in the morning, we are going to have a special award on his name starting from today, on his birthday. What a wonderful occasion. We always remember him for his sense of humor and a very soft nature. And every time there is an event, we always miss him a lot. And we have a co-founder of Ram Mohan sir, Munjal, joining us today on the panel. But it's quite an important day for all of us, and it so happened that this event is happening on his birthday. What else can we ask for? A big round of applause for Ram Mohan sir, wherever he is. We all love you. We all remember you a lot. And on that note, we will start a wonderful session now. So we have Munjal, we have SP Singh Sahab, we have Hiten, we have Uttam, and we have Brian. All the people that we have worked with for ages. As you all know, that we deal with a category called kids. And the kids are the most loved category amongst the whole ecosystem of television, so to say. You know why it's the most loved category in the whole system of television? Is because they are the most loyal category that television can ever think of. And they have the largest stickiness. You know, when it comes to watching content, they are the only ones who would like to come back day after day, hour after hour, to watch their heroes and to follow their heroes and to follow their characters and also imitate them. So they don't only watch that content, but they also discuss that content with their friends, with their parents, with their ecosystem. And they also would like to learn a lot from the same characters. Having said that, something happened to the world 2 years ago, and the last 2 years have actually put us into a very different experience. And most of the kids who were in the urban areas were confined to their homes, and their school got confined to a small screen of a mobile phone. And you can imagine for 2 years to actually do something within the four walls with the same set of people, at the same time, your school getting confined to a small screen, and that also constantly disturbing if your parents are getting calls and you are not able to concentrate, and so much more difficulty. At the same time, there has been a change into their habits. At the same time, there has been a lot of distraction that continued to happen. So to start with today, I would like to actually start with, we have a very interesting panel. We have a content creator. We have two people from the network. And we also have a digital ecosystem. Three people from the network. So my first question to all the network guys, we can start with Brian from that end and go to Uttam and then go to Singh Saab. What are the habit changes that you have seen in the last post-pandemic in terms of the kids? Do you think that the kids, you lost attention? What is the viewership saying? Whether the patterns changed? What all happened during the last 2 years, and what's been your experience in terms of program?
So a very warm welcome to everybody here and good evening. Thank you so much, Ashish. That's a very interesting question Because the whole pandemic has actually seen a lot of growth in the viewership for kids. So that has been phenomenal. We have actually gone from 500 GRP channels, 500 category to a 600 almost we have reached. Because of course, there was nothing to do much while you were at home. So kids were glued to a lot of screen time, including their educative screen time as well as entertainment screen time. So the entertainment screen time was definitely more because while they were at home, they were actually glued to the television a lot. They were glued to their screens. They were glued to a lot of content. And kids were watching a lot of content at that particular period. So as I've noticed that it's not only the category that has grown, of course, we have also seen a upside on the revenue as well in this last 2 years. We have got a lot of, advertisers on board. We have grown close to 20-25% from the current 2019-2018 trend, which we have seen. And we have gone up to a 9%, increase, which has almost come back to a 7% actually now, because since everything is opened up and everything has been, quite accessible right now in terms of going out and going into, schools have opened up and stuff like that. So definitely it has done a lot of boom to the channels, the category, and it has also helped. And I would like to add one more thing. This is the only category that has survived this pandemic, and truly so, it has done absolutely well, because animation as a medium don't require you to go out and shoot. Right. While the others were struggling doing that for like the GECs and your movie channels of the world, we had animators sitting at home and kind of making the content what we were actually watching on screen. So it has actually helped us a lot in terms of the category growth this last 2 years of pandemic.
So, Uttam, of course, that we all have seen the growth, but did you see any change in the pattern of the kids in terms of the consumption patterns to look at whether they have taken to something else apart from television, and how is the engagement with the television itself?
So normally in the kids category, you have a weekend and you have a weekdays. On weekend, you see a lot of viewership jump because kids have, it's a holiday, so they come on the television right in the morning, 7:30 a.m., and they engage with the television and their favorite characters throughout the day. In pandemic, basically, all the days became weekends. I think that was the biggest thing and a joy in their life. For a moment, I think the parents were trying to control, but then they also gave up, for the sanity of the house. And that's where, all the days, and very exciting time for us when we could see, right from the morning till the night time, a constant engagement, unprecedented kind of viewership growing. But what happened was, we were only, I think everybody would relate to this, we were only packed with the limited ammunitions, because we thrive on local production a lot. That basically is a major viewership growth for us. I mean, the successes of, as you can see, the local IPs, Little Singham and Chota Bheem. So we were not really packed with that kind of an ammunition to provide them. And they saw repeats after repeats and repeat after repeats. And then it's been a long pandemic, 2 years. Later on, what happened was they started the same episode which would do really well, and the animation was sort of started to decline. And that's when the broadcasters realized that, they need to add in more fuel. They need to reach out. Productions houses were challenged because it was pandemic, so people were not able to produce at that volume or that speed, all those challenges. So we went out, looked for acquisitions. And then there were array of whole new characters which came in, whole new IPs, which the kids saw in 2021, mid of it till this year. But post-pandemic, again, there's been a change when the normalcy has set in now. It's, the genre has sort of been stable, has gone back to the same level of 2019 in terms of viewerships. And now the kids, of course, they want to engage with their favorite characters, but there's a whole lot of offering for them. Within the pandemic, there were new channels which were launched, kids. So they have a whole lot of options at their hand. which makes our job even much more tougher. But what has been able to succeed has been something which was also working previously on a larger level, and I think they've really come back to their favorite characters and started to engage with them and started to connect with them also. Right.
Thanks. Can I talk to SP Singh Saab? What's been the ETV experience on the whole?
Good evening to all of you. Really delighted to be a part of this esteemed panel. Before I answer to your question, sir, I'll start with one of the mentions of my honorable chairman, sir. One of the journalists from BBC asked him that at the age of 86, during this pandemic, you are planning of diversification, that too in a kids genre. His answer was that it doesn't matter whether if I die tomorrow, I shouldn't stop dreaming today. Taking the dream forward with my creative team, we tried to find out for this last 1.5 years that what exactly is the factor that motivates a kid to watch the TV. So basically what we felt, with whom the kid is watching, is he watching solo, was he watching with his friends or the family? How is he feeling at that moment? Does he want to wind up? Does he want to relax? Is the TV watching his normal schedule? He comes from the school and switches on the TV? Or is it a subdued feeling? Means just before the sleeping, he will like to see that I'll watch TV and then I'll go to sleep. So all these quadrants, you can call it quadrants, we as a broadcaster try to cross-pollinate all these 4 quadrants. That how is he watching, what is he feeling? And that's where, in the time of pandemic, sir, when he was away from the friends, he was only consigned with his families, that too with the old age members in the family, these quadrants played quite a major role. That's where the TV viewership grows up. The digital viewership grew up between 12 to 1:30, Uttamji, if I'm right, and the digital impressions that spiked quite a lot. So as you rightly said, these particular viewing patterns, we as a broadcaster has to analyze and keep our brainstorming on and on to take it forward.
Actually, Hiten, you deal with entirely a different set. We deal a lot with preschool and onto the digital platform. What was your experience during the last 2 years and post-pandemic?
So when it came to the platform which we are majorly on, that's YouTube, we are sorry. So as a creator of preschool content, our biggest platform is YouTube. And just before the pandemic, YouTube as a platform was undergoing change. They wanted the traffic from youtube.com to move towards YouTube Kids. So that was our main challenge of understanding how the system is going to work, whether it's going to work on youtube.com or it's going to go to YouTube Kids. So that was the first challenge as a company. But when it comes to looking at the consumption of kids, there was no stopping on that. The kids were searching for content, and the audience that we cater to, the pandemic doesn't affect them. They really didn't have school in any case, and it was just going to be summer holiday time. So we just went on. It was business as usual for us. So that's the experience which we had.
Coming to you, Munjal, in fact, as we both worked together on, earlier the age profile for the viewership that was always targeted to be 4 to 14. And then we worked hard to get included 2 to 14. And now that it's 2 to 14, what do you think is really happening with the kids category? Where are we heading? Whether a measurement of 2 years is fruitful? Whether we are seeing kids maturing much faster? What's happening according to you with the whole category at this point in time?
Okay. Thanks, Ashish. That's a fairly loaded question. But I think, the fact remains that kids are consuming content. I think the fact remains that the characters that the kids love, they want to obviously get more of them. The pandemic definitely gave them an opportunity to engage more. right? And I think we will all see that pattern changing or dropping because now school started, homework has to happen, all of that has to happen. But I think one definite shift that happened is content discovery, even for kids, moved just from television to OTT to apps, all of that. I think also because I believe that because kids had time, and like Uttam said, that there was a point where the same shows were being repeated over and over again. They started seeking out other content, which is in that process, they obviously went to platforms like YouTube to see what's out there. So I think earlier the loyalty that we saw, which was predominantly with a few set of characters, kids went out to figure out and see, yeah, what else is new there, what else is different there. And I think I would imagine that that's happened across spectrum and across all spectrums of ages. Probably more so in the older segment because they are more savvier when it comes to content discovery on a YouTube or searching for the right kind of content they want. You know, the other thing I also feel that I think while kids obviously watch animation, but they also, the gaming side of it, I think also started increasing because I think if you look at time spent, and I'm not a data person, but I would imagine that kids also started spending a lot of time playing games, you know, because both mom and dad are at home, you know, not much work happening. They are access to their mobile phone. So suddenly they started playing games, you know. So I think we are definitely seeing a lot of this kind of a pattern that yes, kids want to continue consuming more content. If more content is not available or more content of the favorite character is not available, they're going to try out and discover newer content which they will like. As a result of which, a lot of fresh content discovery happened, you know. And I think that's where, you know, our challenge as creators always is that how do you ensure that that loyalty remains, and then how do you continue to give them more of what they like?
I think quite well put, but my next question is a derivative from here as to, you know, at one point in time, we used to always look at an episodic length of 23, 24 minutes. We call it half an hour. And then came a trend that we had most of the lengths reduced to 11 minutes. What's happening is, are the kids more happy with shorter length, or they're more happy with the longer length? So where is that content, consumption going? Because of course they are distracted, and whether distraction is also reducing the time of watching an episode.
It depends on the story. But no, seriously, because broadcaster side programming, you know, you have these set
I thought
formats.
it was dependent on the programming director. They wanted it
No, if I was
7 minute, 11 minute, 22 minute.
Yeah, if I
it
was
was
a short,
defined by them, you know.
if I was a short film,
Studios came with some suggestions, but then you always modified it.
it makes things easier if you have a format, because you go, it makes things easier for the entire industry, for the writers, kitna pages likhna hai. The same page has to translate to 11, no page ka script, 11 minutes. So it's like, that way it's really wonderful. It's like nicely set. But if I was a short filmmaker, then for me, the entire, the playground is open for me. I can decide based on my script and characters, what is the length. But coming from the broadcaster's point of view, 11 minute was a more accepted format. It's easier, as I said. But we've experimented with quite a few. Instead of the older TG, which you see the reels today, even we all engage with that, and this is the shortest way we're engaging with content, But on the kids front, we've seen that if the kids really love their characters and they have the loyalties established already, then they would love to engage with him in a longer format. It's not the shorter. Shorter is fine, but if you have a telefeature which is 50 minutes, if you have a telefeature 80 minutes, they would gladly sit around and watch. And they would gladly sit around and watch the repeats how many times you want to showcase. So on the kids side, we've been experimenting with different formats. We've been experimenting, with the storytelling also. For example, one more thing within the kids category is that, each episode should begin and end in 11 minutes or a 22 minutes, like, it should have a beginning and an ending. But then we've experimented with stories within the popular character, Little Singham, which was a progressive story. So we basically wrote a story I mean, the whole arc was about like, I would say across 5 episodes of 44 minutes, but we wanted to bring the kids back on the television week after week, coming back. And that really worked for us. So we've tried that. That really worked. But longer format definitely is what really helped them stick around.
So my question to Brian is that, is there something that, if you look at within 2 to 14 years, if you break up maybe the preschool category or maybe 6 to 9 category, they prefer a longer format, or the kids above 10 prefer a shorter format, or younger kids? Is there something like this is what you're discovering? And is that a pattern that is evolving at this point?
Frankly, it's a very personal opinion, but I don't see a difference in the age group and the format. There is no correlation between the two. I mean, see, content is content. You can say a story in 7 minutes, you can say a story in 5 minutes, you can say a story in 11 minutes, or 22 or 45. I mean, the duration is it's utmost unimportant when it comes to saying a story. But as a broadcaster, if you ask me per se, as UP rightly said, we look for a longer format, shows or series, because that helps us garner time spent. I mean, that's the only relation that we have. And of course, the reach as well. But as UP also said, I would like to highlight on that. So if the kid finds it very interesting that he is hooked onto a character and he's been watching, we call it a legacy character or whatever, what is running right now in the category, he will definitely want to watch more of it. So there's always, the kid always wants to watch more. So if you're done with like 7 minutes and he's like, oh, it's over. where is my another 4 minutes gone? Or where is my another, 20 minutes gone. So the more is always better, in terms of programming, in terms of putting it out there, in terms of numbers as well. But having said that, there is something called a smart programming also, which we keep trying to do, like in the middle somewhere, sometime. We do these 7 minutes kind of shots and make it into an omnibus. And we run it as a 1 hour kind of block. So, which also is a snappy and, so snacky content, which has 7 minutes, story start, ends, like a nice crisper edit of 11 minutes. And also it gives us that 1 hour of an entire block. So you get the kid's attention. He's in here for the first 3 minutes. And he ends up watching 4 stories in 1 hour. So that is what we try to do at Gubbare, and it is absolutely working for us. So I don't see a age thing right now in between that, I mean, obviously 12 plus audience, I'm not very sure if they're on Instagram or something, because Reels are a very trendy thing right now. And those are 30-second snappy content. You see music getting promoted through Reels right now. So, I mean, in terms of course, in terms of promotion, definitely Ashish's helps. When you're launching a new show, I mean, one of our new shows launching around 11 September. It's called Akul Nakul the Asuras. And we've gone on doing 45 seconders to cut down to 25 seconders. So we have more volume to play it on the channel, as well as it is acceptable on Reels, it is acceptable on your social media platform. So it gets more kind of presence there. So that's it. I mean, I don't have any particular viewing in terms of age and short format content.
So engaging, you see definitely the long form is still working. The short format exists, but you use it tactically for the promotion purposes and all. My question to SP Singh Saab is that you actually always have been known for, multiple languages. How important is to keep traction of all the kids, and how important, according to you, to keep, attracting them is a language, because language plays a very important role in their life, because they are learning these languages as they grow up. So what's your take on the language side of it?
Absolutely right, sir. What you said. We, rather the first broadcaster who are having the video, we are into original productions. We have made 4 original IPs, and we are getting acquired content from all across the world now, at least I think 17 countries, which I am taking care. Getting a content and then dubbing it into different languages, it's a humongous task. It's quite easy to say, but the kind of spent 4 times we are having on the dubbing is a mammoth task. But we as a broadcaster has a responsibility. Yes, the content has to go in their own regional language to a kid. Now, from the telecast point of view, we have one video and the language change options. Does it make much of a difference to a kid, region-wise, if it's in English or is in regional language, to see that particular video in their own language? Or do we as a broadcaster take liberty and fund to make language state-specific in different slots according to the needs of the different kids? So there is a very fundamental difference between the two. But as you rightly said, language certainly makes a very important part. Rather, the BARC study shows that the most of the viewed language is English, then it's Bangla, Tamil, and Telugu, what the research shows. But we have taken this step forward to telecast our product in 12 languages across India, and it is working fairly well. Yes, we have to see the ratings. We have to spend some more time, some more deliberate attempt on the context at what exactly is working in which territory. But it definitely works outside. It's a need of the hour to give the content to a kid in his own language. Again, the Indian parent mentality, you watch in English, आपको English सीखना है, आपको English बोलना है. It's again a challenge. I am giving it in Telugu, in Tamil, with a pretension that yes, he will watch in that. But with the parent around, will he really watch? Second thing, very important, as taking the cue from Brian, there are two aspects, basically, storytelling. The kid relates to a character. It's a Doraemon or the Shin-chan or My Bal Bahubali or the Sisters as a show which is very prominent on ETV Bal Bharat. If he likes that, he will keep on watching it. So relatability with the nuances of a character is one thing. Second thing, repetition mode. Kids always like to watch the content again and again. It's actually a scientific demonstration. It's not a very easy thing to say, because kids feel that what's coming next he is aware of. What is the world going around the character he is aware of. He is very much confident, yes, what will happen next. This character will always win. He will lose. So this repetition he will like to see. So taking the cue, what he rightly said, short duration format, making it big in a bubble episode without the break. But again, it depends with the sales guy sitting on the head, where do we bring the revenues from? But it works. The short format content in a bigger bubble format, and taking care of the storytelling approach and this repetitive approach. It definitely works for we as a broadcaster.
Can I just add?
Yeah.
So, as a creator, my take is slightly different on this. Sure, you have formats, but, if you look at kids' consumption pattern, for example, if you look at when kids are watching gameplay videos, a lot of these gameplay videos go on for hours, like 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. My question is, why is a kid watching a 4-hour gameplay video where he's not even himself playing? Right? I think because that content is engaging for him. So while the 7-minute, 11-minute or 22-minute format, I'm saying, can you actually, as a creator, can you engage the kid for 22 minutes? You can't. Then you will say, okay, fine, I can convincingly engage him for 11 minutes. Great. If I a creator, I can't sustain him for 11 minutes, so I say, मैं 7 मिनट में करता हूँ. वो नहीं हो रहा, हाँ, 1 मिनट तो हो ही जाएगा. So I think it's also about that. I'm saying it's the same kid who is happy watching a 7-minute content, he's happy watching an 11-minute content also, and he's happy watching a 90-minute movie also. I think as creators, it's a question of, are we able to hold him? Is your story, is your character able to hold him for 90 minutes? Then your job is done. If you are not able to do it, then sure, then like I said, then the business guy is going to tell you, yaar, ye nahi work kar raha hai, ab chalo 11 minute mein hold kar lo. And you will do the omnibus, which is that, okay, those 11-minute episodes have been successful, so let's bung them all together and do it. I mean, a lot of channels on YouTube, they do this. Like, you have a 40-minute marathon, which is consisting of 2-minute videos, right? Which and then to your point about repetition, because you know that, yes, he's enjoyed all those 2-minuters and you're giving him all together, so it's an autoplay chal raha hai. Yes, I know that for the next 40-50 minutes, all those videos will play out, he'll enjoy. So I think it's as much about holding your audience for that long.
Correct. In fact, I'll come to Hiten. You deal with much younger kids, as we know. what's your experience on holding their, attention span and getting them back every time? What kind of formats do you use predominantly?
So, so as Uttam mentioned, it's the quality of content and the popularity of content and whether the content is engaging with the kids. So if that's working, then it's a brand recall that you have to depend on. So when they know that a song done by a channel which is called Hoopla Kids or a Kids Camp or an All Babies channel, if they like a particular song, or even if it's in the public domain, they would like that particular version. And even kids, they know how to search for some from certain songs. So if they like a Hindi song which is Alu Ka Chalu, they'll come to Achhe Bachhe channel or they'll come to Choti or Badi and they'll find it over there. So it's how you brand your content and get them back to find them. So the kids know how to discover content pretty well.
So you say that the kids would discover wherever it is.
Yeah, they somehow know how to discover that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they don't make spelling mistakes when they do that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah.
The kids have the best word of mouth campaign,
Yeah.
and we have to learn from that. Because they don't, you don't really target them on a YouTube, you don't really target them on a Facebook. It's word of mouth, and that's like the most beautiful thing about the kids. If they love it, the whole school will love it. And if it is not then they'll trash it.
Yeah, so Uttam, just keep holding the mic. In fact, my next question to you is that while we are talking about that we have been very successful in holding the kids together, the attention spans, the kind of distractions that are there in the world today. In the whole pandemic, they got exposed to a lot of social media. Whether that is actually harming the television, and do you see a threat that this distraction would take them away from television as well?
So I'll answer it in a different manner. Basically, as content creators, we basically want the audience to love our content and watch it. Now, if the audiences is by nature of technology and by nature of their ease is moving on to different platforms, we can't stop that. We want to hold on to it because it's a very established business.
It's a reality. They are moving on, and
so they are.
That's what Munjal was referring to.
True.
And that's what your friend next to you would like them to be on their YouTube channel.
Yes. So what we are doing, is that we're also evolving with that. While the mainstay for them to explore and engage with the content is still our channels and Cartoon Network, Pogo, and Discovery Kids. But if they are on a different platform, yes, you will have the time with your favorite characters. If they want to engage in a game, then we have Little Singham in a game form. If you want to have Little Singham, engage with them through an edtech, now we are developing with partners, there is a Creative Galileo which is evolving into that. And then if you want to, be engaging with the character through merchandise, so it's there too. So basically, what I'm saying is we can't hold on to what we really have. It's established, things are moving on. But what would be really prudent on our part is that we also adapt accordingly and then make sure that we are available on all platforms. Discovery Plus is our OTT platform on which Little Singham is one of the top shows, on the kids platform. Okay. So we have that too. However, broadcast is still a mass medium.
Yes.
It's still where, if any IP is launched with a great character, with a great push, with wonderful storytelling and wonderful artists backing it, producing it, it has the potential to make it big. On OTT platforms, of course, it's a challenges about discovery, the challenges about mass acceptability. Of course, they are doing wonderful stuff. But this is mass medium, and I think this is where the culture is made. This is where, even the parents, talk about, कि मेरा बच्चा लड्डू खाता तो फिर ताकतवर बन जाता है, things like that. So that's the beauty about the mass medium, and I think it will still be one of the mainstays.
I'll let Hiten make his point, and I want to come to you with the additional urban versus rural story.
So the point which I'm trying to make is with what exactly Uttam said, that traditional media companies are now, they've got their strategy in order right now. So Netflix had the numbers, but now Disney Plus, the numbers are much more than what Netflix is achieving. So the traditional media companies already have the content which has worked with the audiences, and I think they're just moving their distribution from a cable into fast channels, into AVOD, SVOD, and other platforms where they can where the audience can consume the content.
So, Brian and SP Singh Sab, in fact, my question to two of you is that how do you differentiate between, the consumption patterns and, kind of fear of losing some of these audience between urban and rural divide? What's working in urban and what's working in rural?
So Ashish, I think what Uttam was also highlighting, I think it's not a war. I mean, OTT and broadcast is not a war. I mean, I'll tell you, last year's research, Searchlight survey had mentioned 57% of audience is still watching television. Kids, I'm talking about. Out of which 10% are on OTT and another 30%, 33% are on, both platforms. So to be very absolutely clear, it is not a war. It is actually a coexistence.
I am not talking about
Yes.
that war. I'm talking about
I will
urban
come
and
to
rural.
it. I will come to that. I will come to that. So we are surviving in the same ecosystem. In fact, OTT or you say YouTube, if you might call it, I mean, definitely, it is an extension. It is an extension platform for us and obviously a revenue generating platform as well. Going back to urban and rural, that's a very interesting study that we've been having. Of course, I'm talking about we always measure the category with an urban, data. But we have a vast majority of rural data as well, and rural people who are actually not available. The channels are not available to them because they are not on digital. I mean, if you ask me, they are not on digital. So where do they go? Because there are a lot of other problems apart from electricity and stuff, but internet as well. I mean, 2 GB of internet costs you 20, 40 rupees and so on in 2 hours. So they're just going to watch half of an episode and it's done. And they're not going to keep refilling it to watch it. So where do they going to come back? They're going to come back again to television. So television as a genre, as a industry is definitely not dying, and kids in the tier 2, tier 3 cities, in the rural population are still going back to television with single TV households. And their consumption patterns are more. But again, are we there? Are we really there? Are we present there? Is Gubbare there? Is cartoon or Discovery or ETV Bal Bharat? Are we present there?
So
No.
is the Doordarshan story still on?
Of course, sir, it is. It is. So the DD free is everywhere. I mean, it's one of the most, widely reached medium. From the time we were kids, we're still on Doordarshan. So since our not being present on those platforms, the kids channel, the kids are actually moving. It's a very interesting story that they are moving to GEC to watch these content. So according to the latest, all the FTA GECs are actually showing all the kids content, and they are doing absolutely well. So I was just talking to Ashish in the back, and I was telling him we have Inten Media owns a network, a channel called Ishara, which is a GEC channel, and we got 9 GRP out of the kids content which has been playing there. So it's a very interesting study. Most of the FTA channels who are in competition with Ishara are also showing kids content, and they are doing really absolutely well. So these kids don't have access to our channels, what we are catering to, and they are actually going to GEC and watching these same cartoons which are running on our channels on some other FTA GEC channels.
So Brian, sorry, just one question. So the 9 GRP, is it urban or rural?
It's EU plus R, but most of it is coming from rural.
Yeah, that's my point, because it's because they don't have access to maybe kids channels there.
So that's an underserved
This
audience.
is FTA 2
It's an
plus I'm
underserved.
talking about, Munjal. Yeah, so it's that.
So just citing a very interesting example, during pandemic, Doordarshan, which is DD, doesn't have a kids play yet in India. We've been trying so hard for it. There's no public broadcast focus on kids content. Now this is where they realized that this was a shortcoming, because Doordarshan, although it has the biggest reach in the country, they didn't have. Now the kids in those regions, are not sitting at home, where this is the mandate from the government to stay at home. and they can't because, घर पे television, so their show is not. So they reached out to us for a collaboration, and we collaborated with them on a 6 months basis, shared our content, which is Little Singham and few other IPs, on a certain time block. It was more like we were also doing it on national interest basis, but those slots jumped up like 350%. And this really helped Doordarshan, frankly, to retain the kids at home during the time. Of course, it became a case study that, this is an audience which is underserved, so can we not have it? And I guess this is where, again, television as a traditional medium is growing. It's not. I mean, as a genre, primarily the growth is being led by the rural side. Now, how do we package and content and make it accessible for that underserved audience? I think that's the new problem which we need to resolve. Otherwise, the GEC players present, in the free-to-air category are doing that job.
Yeah, I think that's a good sign that we can eat into the GSC numbers as well. But I've been getting, indication to close as fast as possible. But I still want two questions. One for Munjal, which I'll come later, but with you, we all talk about, the most loyal are the preschoolers, followed by 6 to 9, and then we always a little apprehension we have about the kids between 10 to 14 who are loyal to us, who are not loyal to us. We very well understood that, but I think, don't you think that we have not really looked into in a right perspective regarding the gender? We very, smartly talk about whole lot of numbers, but when it comes to a divide of the boys versus girls, the girls are not been served properly. I think that's something which always has been a case within the last 20 years of history that we had of animation in this country. And what can we do, because they are falling out to general entertainment and Saas Bahu because we are not making content for them. That's been a fact. So what, as the networks and the programming heads, can you do to see that we also serve equally well to the women, so that the girl categories? I think one after the other.
Just on a quick one, the first part which you mentioned, our understanding of the audience, that this is the core, which is 6 to 9, is the core. It still remains the core. It's the most loyal. But then an understanding for the pre-teens has not been that very sharp and clear, and this is something which we are seeing with Cartoon Network right now, especially with the offering of anime, and can't tell you the loyalties which they have towards those characters and shows. It's as strong, as you would have to Little Singham or Chota Bheem is something which we are seeing with them. And the best part is this audience is not passive audience. They're available and they have access to digital platforms like Instagram, and they'll reach out to you and tell you how to program the show better. And this is something which is missing, and this is the voiceover I don't connect. So this is something, a new learning which we are having to serve this audience. So again, for the category, this is a new eye-opener for all of us to see how do we serve that. And frankly, it is, and the pandemic, I think that was the age which was most stressed also. Because if they couldn't go out, they wanted to go out. Kids, in the shadows of the parents, they were still fine. But this pre-teens, I think, were really stressed. Where are they sitting? This is a time for them to go out, connect, learn, and then, see them. So they have really responded really well. Just talking about the understanding of the older pre-teen audiences. Coming back to the gender, this has become the nature of the beast here. Whereas an understanding is that, the boys will continue to watch cartoons for a longer time. They'll stay. The girls do mature, early and then move on to other formats and other interesting narratives. So the challenge, still remains on the broadcast side. But having said that,
I don't think so. It's that. It's because we are not serving them with the right content.
So it's basically the rank, ratings, everything, and then the
rating. See, rating is misled.
No.
The girls are dropping off because we are not showing them the right content.
Yeah, so then
you're showing a girl as a side character.
So as a broadcaster,
so the thing is, you cannot derive. You cannot derive that the falling number is because you are only making boy content. That's why the number is falling.
Numbers are not falling.
No, the girl number is falling. You see, I can show it to you.
The-
The issue is you cannot read it like that. If you experiment and put the girl content in that space and then you come and talk, that's something which is a case study. Right now, nobody is doing that case study.
So I would say, I was going to add to that. It's not that we don't want to lose the girl audiences. It's the nature of the platform, because now as an audience, even they have an access to various other platforms, in which we are trying the content which will girls will closely watch it, on other digital platforms. And I think this is where a whole array of new content has been tried, and we're doing that. But the nature of the beast on the kids platform still remains. 55% is boys, 45% still girls. We don't want to lose. By saying that, I'm not saying we want to lose them. They're key audiences to us. But yes, the protagonists,
I'll ask Anil to
narratives-
have a separate debate only on the gender
Yes, I know.
and the kids programming. You wanted to say something because I want to put my last question to.
Adding to the point, the Barbie bloggers are there from the Barbie. You will see that shows of the girls' empowerment. If you will see, there's one very famous program on the digital platform, that's Ryan's Toys Review. Irrespective of gender, what I'm talking about, irrespective of gender. I'll give an example of my home to be very personal. My 12 and a half years old daughter, the day starts with the opening of a bhajanam in the house. My day starts with anime music videos in the house. Justin Bieber with the Hollywood songs on the animes, such as the kind, taking cue from Uttamji, such as the affiliation of a kid to an anime now. Now, irrespective, she is watching Justin Bieber. That is called aspirational videos. She aspires to be a dead place. YouTube educational videos, irrespective of gender, both are watching. So my point is, we as a writer, we as a creator, we as a broadcaster needs to develop that program which shows irrespective of the gender to be there on the screen. There cannot be anything like a divide for a boy or a girl. We as a broadcaster should have, with the point I like to make with this forum, should have, and we in ETV are having this, this vision with taking the vision of Honorable Chairman forward, that the moral stories, the social life skill development programs we should make. That will be irrespective of the gender, and that will be taking this Indian traditions forward, Indian culture forward. That should be our moral responsibility as a broadcaster, what I feel. So, sir, taking your point forward.
Sir, the thing is, the reason why your 12-year-old is with Justin Bieber is a failure of our programming. That is also what a point I'm trying to make.
Ashish, the biggest irony is that Sir is with ETV Bal Bharat and their top show is called Sisters. So that is like more than.
And boys are having a better viewership than the girls on this.
That is why I wanted to ask you, what is the viewership are you getting? Are you getting a female viewership for a show like Sisters, where there are two siblings fighting? Or are you getting a male viewership for that?
It's a male viewership, obviously. So that's where the challenge is.
Failure of a programming.
Uttam, you tell me one thing.
How is it an audience's love for Justin Bieber
a young boy
superhero?
A young boy superhero versus a young girl superhero.
No, see, this is where an understanding for an audience has to be. If the audience loves Justin Bieber, am I able to provide? Why should I be holding them back?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying nothing wrong in liking Justin Bieber. I'm saying that what is it that our program is lacking, that we are actually allowing them to watch.
Our programming is not lacking.
No, you can actually make a musical. You can do a lot of things.
Our programming is not lacking. The reason why the kids channel have been thriving, even pandemic mein नए channels launch हो रहे हैं, means that we've been able to serve the kids audience pretty much well. Yes, there are some I would say there are some hurdles, there are some things, but not at all. I mean, kids genre is flourishing. And there's huge investment pouring into it from the broadcasters. And this is a very nice and set business, unlike OTT platforms, who wants to shut down.
The very reason we are discussing this in this panel today is because there is a threat to this whole stability that is there. The thing is that threat is going to come.
The threat would be from our own selves.
And that is because the attention span of the kids will become a challenge for us.
The threat would be from our own self if you're not able to hold the audience the way we've conceptualized.
Yes.
That's the threat. Which means our own storytelling, which means our own way of designing things, I think would be the threat. This is a great ecosystem, and I think I'm seriously most proud about this. of nothing else, like that we are being able to hold up this business. There is investment from the channels, new IPs being launched.
Yeah, Prerna, just one last question.
Just one last one.
Yeah.
But this is where threat is us. If we are not able to sustain this collectively, then that's the threat which I see.
Good.
Audience will move on.
Yes, I think we'll continue with this debate sometime later. But very interestingly, you created some yoga with Modi ji, and how did that do with kids? You created the folk art stories with Krish and Batley Boy. Quite a lot of deviation from the normal set of programming. So why? What is the resonance of this kind of programming with the kids?
Thanks, Ashish. So, Yoga with Modi was not specifically targeted to kids. I think the whole idea behind that show was fundamentally that we wanted to show yoga in a more scientific form. Also, I think the way it impacts different systems, whether it's a skeletal system, whether it's a nervous system, whether it's a digestive system. And when we started conceiving this campaign, I think the challenge was that most of the videos that I saw were by and large short frontal. You would never get to see, the alignment of, your body, which is one of the most important aspects about yoga. The other thing also there is we wanted to also talk about the do's and don'ts, and when you do it wrong, what happens, and when you do it right, what happens, right? So and that's where, and obviously, I think the numbers there was the fact that adults were also watching it, kids were also watching it. So in a way, I think it was a win-win on both sides, that the fact that it was animation, even kids watched it, So coming to the second part, I think the whole genesis of Krish and Balti Boy was that we wanted to produce something different. We saw a lot of the content that was being produced out there, at least when we created Krish and Balti Boy, a lot of it was foreign content. I felt that somewhere we need to tell Indian stories, and I think that inspiration also came from a lot of our conversations with Ramon sir, which Ramon said that, look, we have such great art, right? It's just that our kids are not exposed to that. And that became the driving force, And then once we said, yes, we have great art, but we also have great folk stories, And I said that let's try and use those, And when we started getting into it, so then it's like, okay, let's go the whole hog. Let's show these kids what India is. We are a diversified country. We have so many different states. We have so many different languages. Each state has, even the way Hindi is spoken in every state is different. So we package the whole thing in a manner that you watch one episode of Krish and Balti Boy, which is a 60-minute movie. You get to see 3 different states, 3 different art forms. You get to see 3 different ways the language is spoken. I think it's that diversity, and I think it's also, again, even today, the movies which run on Gubbare, Brian was just telling me earlier that the very first movie which we made in 2010, even today it rates. So I think it's about how you can offer differentiated programming to kids, and I think that's where it's very important. And to the point about girl versus boy debate, I think the point what I think about Ashish was also trying to make is that, sure, they are watching that content, but I think it's also about offering girls also content which is girl-led. I mean, classic example is Powerpuff Girls. I mean, it's been one of your most successful IPs, right? It's just that, somehow it's always, I've always wondered that after that show, why did we not see any more girl-led content? And I think it's again about offering differentiated programming, And I think that's one way to hold audience, that if you continue to keep engaging them with something new, they will keep coming back to you.
Thanks so much. So a big thank you to all the panelists. But before we thank them, in fact, I would like to say that all that the industry has done in the last 2 decades plus has been fabulous. The point that Uttam made is really good, that we loved all kind of programming that happened in this country. It was self-evolved programming. All kind of studios came up with a whole lot of IPs out of all kind of difficult situations. And even then, we built a very successful industry. I love all the people in this industry who have been fully passionate about doing what they're doing in life. At the same time, every single one who has contributed to creating a huge brand of Indian animation, the challenges would come. We would like to debate these challenges and make sure that we find our own solutions, because not to forget that we have one of the biggest audience in the world who are there with us, and we need to make it work for us, not only with content, but also with business. At the same time, also taking our content to the global audience. So after that, a big thank you to all of you.